to the last one. How do you keep a good reputation in this industry?
I'll go first. I'll give you guys a lesson that I learned on my first deal. And this was in a time of desperation, and I was living in like the weekly suite rentable suites in the hood in West Phoenix. And I got my first deal under contract. I was set to make $13,000. Super happy about it. Grateful after like 4 deals fell apart, 9 months of waiting and struggling and beating my head against the wall and knocking on foreclosed doors. So I was doing everything wrong. But I finally got my first deal under contract. I signed it for $13,000. I go to the title company to fill out like some information sheet on my companies so I can get my assignment. And at the title company, as I'm walking out, the end buyer is walking in, right? And I greeted him, and then he's like, "Hey, you're the guy with the Tonto deal, South Phoenix deal." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "Hey," he's like, I have a retail buyer for it. He's like, "We paid X amount for it." He's like, if we cut out the guy that assigned it to me, like you'll make $23,000 more." Straight up. And I don't want to say this guy's name, God bless him, but he told me that. And you have to remember what kind of mindset I'm in as far as a desperation. I have negative $200 in my account, or 200, one or the other. I have rent due. I had to borrow money from my buddy at the cell phone store to pay the rent that month. So I had a month in a suite where there's no eviction. Like if you don't pay, you're out. You're right. So I'm in complete desperation. And he dangled that carrot in front of me. It's like $23,000 on top of my 13. So that's a huge deal. And I'm 18 years old. I'm like, and I considered it. I'm like, I really considered it. And I even to the point where when he's asking me, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Like, I don't see how that'd be a problem. Like, okay, I'll get back to you." I exchanged numbers with him because I'm green in real estate, right? So I called my buyer later on, this guy, Jose, like 50 rentals here. And I'm like, "Jose," I'm like, "Hey, I wanted to communicate with you. I'm going to sell this deal to another buyer." I told him, I'm like, "I'm going to sell this deal to another buyer. I was able to get a little more, and just wanted to communicate with you and ask, for the blessing."
Yeah.
That's how I framed it. And that probably gaslighted him a little bit. Because it would have been a blessing, but it wasn't later. It wasn't at that moment. And what he said, he's like, "Hey, Alex," he's like, "I've been doing this business for 20 plus years. And I know it's your first deal. A piece of advice, like your word means everything in this business." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's $23,000 more, man. Like, that's life-changing. Like, it's absolutely life-changer for me. Living in a trailer home, like $39,000 deal." I'm like, so he's like, "Your word means everything." And he's like, "Look, I'll let you do as you want. I'll make it your decision." It's like, "But if you want to be successful in this industry," I'm getting goosebumps because he's like, "If you want to be successful in this industry, like, honor your word." And that night I couldn't sleep because all I kept thinking about, like, 13,000, 39,000, or 36,000, 13,000, 36,000. I'm like, "Dude, like, what do I do?" And I called him the next day and said, "Hey, I want to do more deals with you, and we'll just do it as is." And come to find out, that deal ended up getting daisy chained like another 50,000. So there's still more, and I'm sure the guy that tried to offer me more 23 was going to make more because he's cutting out this guy.
Yeah.
So the deal ended up closing like 2 days later. I picked up my check for 13,000, but it really set the standard for how business should be. And I kid you not, because I did that guy ended up selling me like some of his rentals down the line, passing me deals that he passed up because he ended up moving to Mexico. Like he blessed me. I made more than the 23,000 that I would have short-term made in that time. So over time, I've that's been my mindset. It's like in everything that I do, it's like honor your word and put people first versus profits.
Yeah. Similar story with me, and I'll get into that, but how do you keep your reputation in the business? It's very simple. Just do good business. It's a pretty simple answer. If you're not a scumbag, you're probably going to be all right. But similar situation with me. I sold my first deal to Zachary Keeps for $30,000. I was going to make $30,000. He went to lunch, met up with Templeton Walker, another guy that buys a bunch of deals in town. Zach said, "Oh, Temp was looking for something in Scottsdale." Zach said, "I just got this deal, and Zach marked it up 20 or 25.
Yep.
Temp took the deal. Cool. But then it got sold up another like 10 assignments. So I could have made like 90,000, but I only made 30. Here's where the lesson comes into play. Like you, I call up Zach and I'm all upset.
You even called me, or you did a group chat.
Maybe, yeah.
Like,
and I was like, what should I do?
Yeah.
And I think you were like, well, you got to stick to it, you know?
From that lesson, yeah.
Yeah. And so I call Zach up though, and I'm like, dude, what the heck? Why'd you? And he's like, you made yours, I made mine, and now other people are going to make theirs. Everybody wins. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And the big thing is pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So you got to be content with what you're making, be happy that you're getting a win, and move on to the next one. And for me, $30,000 was plenty enough money for me to go on and do more deals and get the mentorship and grow and get more callers, more marketing. So it was all I needed. And if I was going to be greedy, I could end up with nothing. And a lot of times in business, you'll find that. You'll find yourself being greedy. I find myself being like, oh, dude, well, we could make more. So wait, don't tell him yes yet. Wait. And then I go, no, dude, that's not the right mindset and frame we want to be thinking in. Let's go with him. It's good, solid buyer. Let's do it. Like, so from that lesson early on, later in business, I go back to that lesson all the time. And then lost my train of thought. So you're going to have to jump cut, but I want to mention this.
It happens.
Sorry, about something really good to say. What's the question again? Yeah.
Question is, how do you keep a good reputation?
To set the precedent.
Oh, yeah. So with Zachary Keeps, you know, like I just mentioned with that other question about mentors, how Zach's been my mentor. If I went and said, no, I'm not going to sell you this deal, screw you, I would have lost a massive opportunity, a relationship. It would have been a horrible loss for me, because I've sold Zach probably 50 to 70 deals in town, which is a ton of deals. He's one of my best buyers in town. He's taught me so much. We're great friends.
Call away. Yeah.
He's a call away with advice. Like, so over some money, which I only needed the 30 was enough for me. Over some more money, you know, I would have lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars of assignment fees I've made that Zach's paid me. So you got to literally, like, if you look back, it would have messed up a lot. So don't be greedy, and, you know, make sure you protect your reputation.
Everyone's connected. I know in Phoenix here, it's very small, tight knit, right? So everybody hears about everything. So, you know, it doesn't matter how big of an investor they are or how small. Make sure you treat everybody with respect and ethics, and do the right thing, and then just be reasonable in your business sense. And what I mean by that is, like, I had a memorandum in Tucson that we got the deal, the seller ghosted us, and this buyer came in and closed it like 3 days cash before we got a title report. So they didn't see the memo filed. And I had it for like a year and a half, I had it for like 6 to 9 months. And then they renovated the house. They put it back on the market to sell, and it's pending for sale. But I have my memo, and it was like a $40K deal for us, right? And Vic Heredia calls me. He's like, dude, he's like, hey, this is one of my really good friends. Like, and it's the guy with like 200 homes down there. He's like, one of my really good friends. Yeah. He's like, one of my really good friends. Like, I know you have this memo. Like, what do you want for it? Like, you know, it wasn't really his fault. It was really the seller's fault. And I'm like, dude, and at that time, you know, things were going great. So I'm like, dude, because you just said he's a really good friend, I'm like, I'll just release it for nothing, right? And Vic could vouch for this story. And if we made a few grand, I don't think we did, but you can fact check me later. But I don't think we made anything on the deal, but it's just because of the value that I place in the relationships. And really, that guy owns like 200 homes, and he's a call away if I ever need anything in Tucson, right? So, you know, could I have probably squeezed 10, 15,000 on a memo fee? Yeah, sure. But there's more value in having that relationship and access to their resources if you ever need them, than to just burn the relationship. Because if he would have paid me out on something that wasn't his fault, it was really the seller's fault, you know, there is a bitterness to that in business.
Yeah.
So just keeping everything clean. And for me, it's like, this is a game that I definitely don't plan to retire when I'm 30, which is only 3 years away now. But I want to be in this game forever, right? So if you have the perspective of I want to be in this game forever, like don't do something stupid in your 20s, 30s, 40s that is going to jeopardize your, you know, your real estate journey.
Yeah.
Because it does catch up. And you don't want to be the guy, because we hear it all the time, like this guy burned this guy. I'm like,
That's what I was going to say.
You don't want to be the topic in the conversation amongst real estate events or people that are doing real business in this industry.
Yeah, the final thing is don't be naive to this, because we both know there's a handful of names where it's talked about, don't do business with these people. Like,
and it travels fast.
It does. So don't be naive, like, oh, it's one little deal, like it's not gonna, dude, you could mess up your whole career. So don't be naive. If you're young getting into this, make sure you do good business, be honest, you know, show up with integrity every single time. And then you got nothing to worry about. You'll have a successful career.
Absolutely.
Alex, you're next.
Oh, God.
Last question.
I'm going for this bottom one.
There we go.
Boom. You guys are going to need to finish the game, by the way.
All right.
All right. So
I won't put my hands on.
this is the biggest question for me. And I know that it will definitely help a lot of the young entrepreneurs here. What is your biggest regret and why?
I think we all have some. It's hard to pinpoint the biggest one. I'd say the biggest one is probably early on with like my mental health, right? It's like just sacrificing all that was needed to be sacrificed for the pursuit of success, but other things, you know, struggled with as far as like taking care of myself. So just finding early on, I really feel like that, not stunted my growth, but definitely slowed down because of all the mental challenges I had, like with my childhood traumas and not getting help or processing that fast enough. I'd probably say that on the personal side. On the business side, I would say not thinking big enough initially. Like I was pretty content with like, okay, 50, 100K a month. 150, you know, even if it was a 50K month, I was like grateful for it. But as you have more conversations throughout the industry, you'll realize like there's people doing $1 million a month. And when I start to really dive into that mentally, it's like, is it a skill gap? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that their skill sets are more superior than ours. It's just really that's what they set out to do. Right, so I think biggest regrets like just not thinking big enough from an early age. I would say those two things.
Yeah, for me, I think there's two. I regret caring what my friends thought or people in high school thought. I think my personal brand would be a lot further along if I started not caring.
That's a good I regret that now, actually. Sorry to interrupt you, but I regret that now. It's like not continuing and being consistent with personal brand, because I feel like I have the message and the heart to do it, and it's just a consistency thing.
Yeah, like the thing is, nobody that's where you want to be or doing what you want to do is going to hate on you for trying. It's always the people that are doing the same thing and they don't want you to escape their box of what they think they can do in their life. So I wish I just stopped caring sooner. I still struggle with it sometimes, caring, but that would have been a huge thing to push me forward if I just tried to put my name out there, you know, put out more content, not care what people think. And so I regret caring what friends thought, because it did hold me back. And then another thing in business that I regret is not buying like any deals and holding them. I did own some stuff on seller finance, but it was only on a 3-year note, and that was great getting mailbox money from that. But I wasn't getting any of the appreciation and equity over time. And so I wish I bought more deals. If I bought even
one a year,
I'd be worth probably 5 times as much. My net worth would be probably 5 times more than it is today. So that's a big regret, but you can't, you know, change the past. So
I regret that too, because it's like I look at the evidence, like 2-3 investments right now in properties, the building, the commercial building, and I'm like, dang, I'm grateful that I put 200 because now it's 4 times or
Yeah.
3 times that. And yeah, I regret not buying more deals for sure, or keeping them. And then a big lesson that I learned that I regret, when COVID hit, I had plenty of capital. Businesses they actually started doing better because all the hedge fund stuff. But I was listening to too much fear I was listening to all the fear in the market, and I stayed out the market when I should have got into it. And one of my mentors, amazing Asian lady named City, I don't know if you know her. She owns a few hundred properties here. And she's like, hey, Alex, like, you never want to take yourself out of the market because of the noise. Like, if you have to reduce your exposure, like, that makes sense, but don't ever just sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And that really hit me because a specific deal that I regret is I had a lot in West Phoenix. It's a 7-figure mistake because this is how scared I was of the COVID thing and the market. I'm like, I don't want to end up back in a trailer home, you know, which is super unreasonable to even think because I'm so far removed from that. Like, I'm like, oh, worst case, I just move into the office building or something. but I ended up, I had this piece of land in West Phoenix, and it was like 75,000. And I had the cash to buy it. I was going to buy it. And then I ended up like wholesaling it to her. She's like, hey, you sure you want to sell this? Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not in the market right now. I don't want to buy anything. And she ended up entitling it, and she has like a 7-figure cash profit offer from a big developer for like, she ended up entitling it for 120 units. I'm like, damn, like I could have turned 70K and probably a few $100K in development costs to a lot. And she was very adamant, like, are you sure you don't want to keep this? I'm like, I'm good. Like, I want to stay out the market. So, and I'm sure we all have deals like that.
Yep.
So I don't really dwell on it. I dwell on the lesson of no matter where the market is, don't sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, and that's the good thing with us being young. You know, even though we didn't buy all these past years, we're still young. Like, we're still early on in building a portfolio or buying assets that are going to grow. Like, so we're in a good place still, which I'm super grateful for. And then I think this will be helpful to a younger audience. Like, why did I not buy more real estate and hold it? It was a few things. It has to do with social media, you know, the shiny object thing, like wanting to just build up cash, fast cash. Social media kind of programs you to be like that. And then also, I just was focused on wholesaling and having mentors that were talking about wholesaling. After I had built up a decent amount of capital, I should have tried to get closer with Zach Keeps or that lady you mentioned and try to get more mentorship from them on what I should be doing to buy. And now I'm kind of more talking to Zach a lot about that and trying to buy houses and hold them. But yeah, I think I should have shifted gears earlier on, and also not just be worried about cash. Also, another thing, I was living at home with my parents up until like 2-3 years ago now. And so I always had somewhere to live. So I never was contemplating, oh, maybe I should buy something to live in or whatever. Yeah. And so kind of that shift helps me now as well to want to buy more. So if you're at home with your parents, still think about buying something to go move out and live into. And think about shifting to a buy and hold mentor. And also, it's not all about instant gratification and instant cash. Like you said, you could have bought that for 70 and entitled it $100,000 in costs, now made $1 million rather than 70. So keep that long play, that long vision in mind always, and always analyze your deals with different exit strategies to find the one that's going to make you the most money.